Okay, so are you ready to dive into something really different?
I am.
We're going on a deep dive into the world of Polish wine.
Polish wine.
I know, I know.
It's exciting.
You probably didn't guess that's where we're going for this episode, right?
I did not.
But trust me, it's a fascinating world. And we've got Vincios de Polonia as our guide today.
Perfect.
And this book, it's more than just a guide. It actually reads like a love letter to this whole world of Polish wine.
It really does.
So we're going to uncover some of those unexpected stories and some of those hidden gems. And I think by the end of this, you're going to be like, all right, I'm ready to book a flight to Poland and try all these wines.
I'm ready.
All right. So let's talk about the history, because when we think about wine regions, Poland doesn't necessarily come to mind immediately, at least not for me. But it turns out that Polish winemaking has a really long and rich history.
Yeah, much longer than a lot of people realize.
Give us some of those historical highlights. What are we talking about here?
So we're actually going way back to the Middle Ages. So think centuries ago.
Wow. Okay.
Vinos de Polonia highlights the Cistercian monks, particularly those at the Wauchope Abbey. Yeah, and now it's a mouthful. But they weren't just brewing beer, which is what you might normally associate with monks.
Right, right.
These monks, they were early pioneers of Polish winemaking.
No way.
Yeah, and they actually even had a specific vineyard site called Winica, which literally translates to vineyard.
Ah, so they knew what they were doing. This was serious business for them.
Absolutely. They were dedicated. This was their thing.
So this is fascinating. I mean, we're talking about monks, vineyards, a golden age of Polish wine. It sounds like something out of a movie.
It does. It's romantic in a way.
But was this too good to be true?
Well, like a lot of good things, it couldn't last forever, right?
Right.
The book talks about how the Reformation came along and it brought some changes that impacted wine production.
Interesting.
And then, history kind of took its course. Wars and all the other fun stuff that comes with history.
Right.
And of course, climate plays a big role in winemaking, right?
Yeah.
And Poland's always had this cooler climate. And back then, that made consistent winemaking a real challenge.
It's interesting because you mentioned the climate, and I think a lot of people, when they think about challenges to wine regions today, climate change is often the first thing that comes to mind. So how did Polish wine go from kind of struggling, it sounds like, with the climate to then thriving in what we know is a changing climate? It's like this comeback story waiting to be told.
It really is a comeback story.
Yeah.
So climate change, while it is a global concern and definitely has its negative impacts,
Right.
it has actually created some pockets of opportunity for wine regions in cooler climates, and Poland is one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, the book talks about how certain regions are actually seeing warmer temperatures and longer growing seasons, making them more suitable for grape cultivation.
Really? So it's like this unexpected silver lining in a way for these regions.
It is.
Okay, so you've got the climate sort of working in their favor, but it's not just the weather, right?
Absolutely not. It's like this perfect storm of factors that have come together. The Polish government has been incredibly supportive. They recognize the potential here. So they're investing in research, they're providing incentives for vineyard development, and they're promoting Polish wine, both domestically and internationally.
It's like they're saying, hey, we have a good thing going here. Let's get behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart move. So I love that. So you've got the climate, you've got the government support. What else is fueling this Polish wine renaissance?
Well, you can't forget about the consumers.
That's right.
There's a growing movement, I think, globally, but definitely in Poland, towards local and regional products.
Right. That makes sense.
And wine is no exception. People are eager to discover new flavors, and I think there's also a sense of pride in supporting Polish winemakers.
It's like this homegrown revolution with a side of deliciousness. So we've got this incredible history, this comeback story, but I want to get a sense of place. I want to be transported to Poland right now. Paint me a picture. What does Polish wine country look like? Where are we headed first?
Let's start in southeastern Poland, in a region called Lubelski.
Lubelski.
Now, picture rolling hills, fertile valleys, and this majestic river, the Vistula River, flowing through it all.
Wow. Okay, I'm getting some visuals now.
It's beautiful. And what's really fascinating about this region is the soil,
Okay.
because it has this unique blend of chalk and laquais, which gives the wines a distinctive minerality.
Now, minerality, that's a fancy wine word for those of us, myself included, who maybe are just dipping our toes into this Polish wine pool.
Right.
What does that actually mean? Like, how does that translate to the taste?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So think of it like this. Those minerals in the soil, they get absorbed by the grapevines,
Right.
and then they translate into the wine, giving it this subtle, earthy, almost salty quality.
Oh, interesting.
It adds complexity and depth that you don't get from other places.
Okay, so it's kind of like that terroir, like you said, that expression of the place.
Exactly.
And I can't forget about the Vistula River that you mentioned. It's not just there for the view, I'm assuming.
No, it actually plays a vital role in the climate of the region. So it acts like a giant temperature regulator.
Oh, wow.
It moderates those extremes, creating this perfect microclimate for the grapes to thrive. And this is especially crucial in Lubelski because this region experiences those really big continental climate swings.
So they get those hot summers, those cold winters.
Wow. So the Vistula River is like nature's air conditioner for these vineyards.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it. This is why I love a good deep dive. You learn something new every time. But I'm picturing vineyards nestled among rolling hills bathed in sunshine. Is this pretty typical of the landscape in Poland, or are there other vibes that we're going to see?
Well, if we hop over to Western Poland, to a region called Wielkopolska, you'll find something completely different.
Okay, transport me there. What am I looking at?
So imagine this. Gently undulating hills, more forests, and lots of lakes dotted throughout the landscape.
Okay, very good.
It still has that continental climate, but it's a touch cooler and wetter than Lubelski.
Okay.
And the soil is completely different, too. Instead of chalk, you'll find clay and sand here. So we're talking completely different vibes, different soils.
Totally.
Which must mean the grapes are different, too. So
Yeah.
what is growing in these Polish vineyards? Don't hold out on me.
All right, so Polish winemakers are working with a really interesting mix of both familiar international grapes and some uniquely Polish varieties that you probably haven't heard of.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Tell me more about these uniquely Polish grapes. I need names. I need to know what to look for. I want to impress my local wine shop owner.
All right, get ready to take notes because some of these are real tongue twisters.
Okay.
So, Rondo, Solaris, and Regent are some of the ones that are really starting to make a name for themselves.
And these are all grapes that are native to Poland.
They're not all native, but they're all bred to thrive in those cooler climates. So they're really well suited to Poland's climate.
Okay, I need more. I need like tasting notes, like unexpected flavor.
Amazing. Rondo.
And imagine a red wine, but with a structure similar to a Cabernet Franc.
Okay.
So it's a bit lighter bodied, but it has these intriguing spicy notes, black fruit.
Oh, that sounds good. And what about Solaris? I feel like Solaris, the name itself, just sounds so like sunshine in a glass.
And it kind of is. So Solaris is a white grape that ripens quite early, which makes it great for those shorter growing seasons.
Makes sense.
And it produces these really beautiful aromatic white wines. Think of a Riesling, but maybe with some more tropical fruit flavors, but still with that crisp, refreshing acidity.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Unexpected. Okay, and Regent, what's the story there? Regent is a survivor. It's a red grape that was actually developed in Germany, but it's found a really happy home in Poland.
Ah.
And it was bred to withstand disease, which is a really valuable trait in grape growing.
Right.
So think rich color, medium body, and flavors of plums and cherries with a little hint of spice.
Oh. No, that sounds good. Okay, this is incredible.
Right.
So we've got the history, we've got the landscapes, we've got these unique grapes. But what about the winemaking itself? Are we talking like old world charm, or are we talking like cutting edge technology, or is it a blend of both?
It's a really interesting blend, actually.
I-
And that's where Vinos de Polonia really
Mhm.
shines, I think, because it doesn't just scratch the surface.
Right.
It takes you into the cellars, and it reveals how Polish winemaking is this fascinating mix of tradition and modernity.
It's like a medieval castle with state-of-the-art Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me the details.
Okay, so take oak aging, for instance.
Okay.
The practice is old as time, right?
Right.
Polish winemakers are carrying on that tradition, but they're not afraid to experiment.
Okay.
The book talks about how they're sourcing oak barrels from different regions,
Oh, interesting.
not just France, but also the U.S., and even local Polish oak, which adds a whole other layer of complexity to the wines.
So they're really thinking about the sourcing. Like, where is that oak coming from? How is that impacting the flavor?
Absolutely.
It's like they're the master chefs of the wine world.
Yeah,
They're sourcing those really top-notch ingredients.
exactly, yeah. So cool. And they're experimenting with other techniques too, right?
Yeah. You mentioned something about carbonic maceration,
Yes.
which for those of us who, are not, winemakers, we need a little explanation there.
Right. So essentially, carbonic maceration is a process where they ferment the grapes whole without crushing them.
Okay.
And this creates these really beautifully fruity, light-bodied wines.
Mm.
It's almost like the grapes are just bursting with freshness in the glass.
Are we talking red or white wines here?
That's the cool part. It's both.
Okay.
So traditionally, it's used more for reds, but some Polish winemakers are getting really experimental and using it for white wines too.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it often leads to these incredibly food-friendly wines.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
It does.
So if I were to plan a Polish feast, which I'm totally doing now.
You should.
I mean, we got to go beyond pierogies, right?
Right.
Although pierogies are amazing.
So good.
But what are some must-try pairings, maybe featuring some of these wines, some of these grapes we've been talking about?
Okay, so imagine this. You have this platter of smoked Polish trout,
Okay.
maybe some rye bread, a little dollop of horseradish cream on the side,
Oh, that sounds good already.
and you pair that with a crisp, dry Riesling from Wielkopolska.
Okay.
That acidity is going to cut through the richness of the fish,
That's what you want.
and those floral mineral notes are just going to complement those smoky, savory flavors.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
I'm taking notes. Okay, what else? What about something heartier? I need a main course here.
Okay, how about bigos?
Bigos, what is that?
So it's a traditional Polish hunter stew, simmered for hours, sauerkraut, different meats, warming spices.
Oh, you had me at hunter stew.
Wow.
Okay, what wine stands up to that? Because that sounds intense.
You need something equally bold, right?
Right.
Reach for a glass of Regent.
Okay.
Remember those plum and cherry flavors with a hint of spice?
Yes.
Perfect match.
Ooh, I love it. Okay, and now we need a grand finale. We need a dessert pairing here.
Polish desserts, all about those sweet and tart flavors.
Right.
Poppy seed pastries, apple cakes, lots of fresh fruit.
Okay.
You know what I would pair with that? A late harvest Solaris.
Ooh, okay.
Those rich honeyed notes with that touch of citrus zest.
See, Solaris coming back again.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect way to end a Polish feast.
It really is.
Oh my goodness, this is making me so hungry. Okay, I have to ask about these indigenous grapes that were almost lost, right?
Yeah.
Vinhos da Polonia talks about this. It was almost like a rescue mission to bring them back from the brink.
It is. And it's a testament to how dedicated these Polish winemakers are to preserving their winemaking heritage.
Right.
Take, for instance, the Jutsenka grape.
Żytlinka.
This white grape was once really widespread in Poland,
No.
but it almost completely vanished.
Really? What happened?
Changing tastes, there were some diseases that affected the vines, but thankfully, some really dedicated winemakers, they recognized, the historical significance of this grape.
Yeah.
They persevered, and they literally saved it from extinction.
Wow. So they hit the refresh button on history.
They did.
And now it's making its comeback. So for those of us who might be lucky enough to try this Jutrzenka grape, what are we in for?
Okay, so picture this. You're sitting on a sunny patio, surrounded by blooming wildflowers.
This is very visual. I love it.
And you take a sip of this Jutsenka, and it's like those wildflowers are dancing on your tongue. It's light-bodied. It has these delicate aromas of chamomile, green apple, a touch of honeydew melon.
It sounds so refreshing.
It is.
Okay, you have officially blown my mind with all of this talk of these unique grapes, the winemaking, the food pairings, but let's look ahead. Where does Polish wine go from here? What's next for this rising star of the wine world? Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I don't want to leave our listeners hanging. We've talked about the past, the present, but what about the future? Vinhos da Polonia, it gives us some really exciting glimpses into where Polish wine is headed.
It does. It does.
So what's got you buzzing? What are you most excited about?
One of the things that really struck me while reading this book was this incredible focus on sustainability.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't just mean a passing mention.
Right.
This is they are really, truly committed to doing things the right way.
Okay, so what are they doing? Give me some specifics. How are they putting this into practice?
Well, think about it this way. The Polish wine industry, it's still relatively young, right?
Right.
Which means they have this incredible opportunity to build from the ground up.
Totally. They don't have to undo any old habits or anything.
Exactly. So they can kind of skip ahead to the good stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
The book talks about wineries that are powered by solar energy.
Amazing.
using recycled materials for their packaging,
Right.
and even experimenting with biodynamic viticulture.
Okay, biodynamic viticulture. Break that down for me, because I feel like that's a term that some people might not be familiar with.
Right, so it's like organic farming, but like on steroids.
Okay.
It takes it to a whole other level.
Okay.
So you're basically treating the entire vineyard as this living, breathing ecosystem.
Wow.
Everything's connected.
I love that.
The soil, the vines, the insects, even the phases of the moon.
It's like they're in tune with the rhythms of nature.
Exactly. It's about working in harmony with nature, not against it.
That's so cool. So it's not just about the wine itself, it's about the entire process.
Exactly. It's about the bigger picture.
Amazing. Okay, so we've got this really strong commitment to sustainability, but I'm sure there's more.
Yeah. There's always more.
When we think about the future of Polish wine.
Well, remember those micro-regions we talked about?
Yes.
The different soil types, the climates?
Yeah.
Polish winemakers are really starting to hone in on those nuances. They're like laser focused on expressing the terroir in their wines.
So each bottle is almost like a snapshot of
Yeah.
that particular place.
Exactly. Like a postcard from that specific vineyard.
I love that analogy.
They're experimenting with hyper-local grape varieties, some of which like you might never even have heard of.
Wow.
It's all about crafting these wines that are totally unique to Poland.
So it's really like this sense of place, this celebration of Polish winemaking.
Absolutely.
I love that. So who are the people behind this? Who are these trailblazers? Who are the ones who are really pushing the boundaries?
Well, and this is another thing that I found really exciting.
Yeah.
Is that there's this new generation of winemakers
Okay.
who are just so passionate, so talented.
A bit.
They're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Yes.
They're traveling the world, they're learning from the best.
Right.
And then they're coming back to Poland with all these fresh ideas
Yeah.
and this real determination to like put Polish wine on the map.
That is so cool. It's like this really exciting time to be a winemaker in Poland.
Oh, absolutely. The energy is palpable.
I love it. Okay, so for someone listening who's like, all right, I'm convinced I need to try some Polish wine, what's your advice? Where do we even start?
I would say be open to the unexpected, first of all.
Okay, I like that.
Don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
Look for those unique grape varieties. We talked about Rondo, Solaris, Regent.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, talk to your local wine shop. They love this stuff.
Exactly. Most wine shops, they love to geek out about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It's all about, expanding your palate, expanding your horizons.
Totally. It's an adventure.
And I think we need more adventure in our lives, especially when it comes to wine.
Couldn't agree more.
So there you have it, our deep dive into the world of Polish wine.
Cheers to that.
I know, I'm thirsty. Who knew? Poland. It's not just about the purities, people. They've got incredible wines, they've got history, they've got innovation. What more could you want?
It's a hidden gem just waiting to be discovered.
I love it. Well, until next time, deep divers, keep exploring, keep those requests coming, and as always,
Happy tasting.